Today we're going to talk about WildC.A.T.s Covert Action Teams number 0. Co-created by Brandon Choi and Jim Lee, with story by Lee and Choi, and the pencils by Brett Booth. It's nighttime in the Halo building, and Void is using her powers to seek out the final gifted one. Void's mind wanders to images from her past. Images of a mission to space gone wrong. A mission that ended in a smoking crater for the crew, but a rebirth for Void. As Void snaps out of it, she finds Spartan and Lord Imp ready to help her. Void lets them know that she saw many things in her visions, including her own death, as well as an orb of immense power. Lord Imp reminds Void that she let him know this day would come, so he prepares to head out, letting them know he's gonna start getting allies, starting with someone called the Gnome. Jacob meets up with the Gnome's contact and successfully sets up a future meeting. But as the night progresses, Jacob finds himself in his old alley. And with the alcohol, even an encounter with some strange metal men doesn't affect Marlowe, who then proceeds to beg them not to go. Meanwhile, Spartan, Maul, and Warblade are in the middle of a training session. Spartan finishes up the training session and then leaves the two to their own devices, which may have not been the smartest decision. Elsewhere, the Gnome is having a meeting of his own. He's meeting with the person who's his mole inside the Cabal and learning about the next gifted one. But their meeting is rudely interrupted by a couple of familiar foes. It's Zealot and Grifter. Grifter argues that they must make it to the gifted one before the Gnome does, but then they run into the Triad. Zealot takes the lead and engages them head on. Zealot tells Grifter that he must go find the gifted one, and then she proceeds to remove him from the battle. And with that, Zealot prepares to stand her ground against the Triad: Slag, Attica, and Harm. Having made it a safe distance away from the battle, Grifter finally takes a breather. He arrives at a place called the Hotspot. He ditches his mask and goes for a more casual look as he prepares to go inside. The manager of the Hotspot checks on the girls before the show begins, but he finds the topic of their discussion is the new girl on the floor, and her stage name is Voodoo. And she comments how she feels that things are finally going to go her way tonight. Boy, is she wrong. And there you have WildC.A.T.s Covert Action Teams number 0. I put up Brett Booth's full wraparound cover here so you can see it in all its glory, and if I'm not mistaken, I believe this book was Brett Booth's first Wildstorm work. This issue actually came bagged with the first WildC.A.T.s collected edition, and I just remember the idea of 0 issues, which were kind of big at the time, just blew my little adolescent mind. The premise of this issue, going back to different parts of the original story, kind of reminded me of Back to the Future 2 when Marty's going into parts of the first movie. It just filled in little holes that were in the original story, but you know, it was just fun to see certain scenes from a different point of view. So that wraps up this episode. So if you like this video, be sure and hit like, and please subscribe, because I'll continue to hit more of the old Wildstorm titles, as well as the sporadic new titles that feature Wildstorm characters. And until then, we'll see you next time.